Peter, first of all, welcome back to Tannadice.
Thank you.
Great to have you here. 10 years has passed since yourself and Craig joined the club as a management team, and we're here as you're making your return to the dugout at Tannadice in the home end as the manager of the Sean Dillon 11 that will play against Hearts on Tuesday the 21st. So we just thought we'd get a chat with you regarding Sean first of all. So you obviously came in for Sean very quickly in your time yourself and Craig, your career here at Tannadice.
Yeah, one of the first things that when Craig and I took over, we quickly assessed the squad, and there was a January window coming in because it was around about October, November that I think Craig came in with myself. And one of the things we recognised is we needed new players, we needed new blood, sometimes to freshen up a squad. And you know, a funny thing about the Sean Dillon movement, I think he was Craig's first signing. I remember Craig, along with Mick Oliver, who eventually worked as a scout at the Scotland national set-up with Craig. Both him and Craig and Mick went over to watch Shelbourne, and I was left here with the players. And I remember speaking to Craig that night with regards to how watching Sean done, because he told me who he was going to watch, and it's always interesting to find out how Craig Levine, a defender, feels about the defender he was going to watch. And one of the things when I phoned him late that night was Craig saying, I asked the question, well, how did he do? And Craig said, straight away, he'll do for me. He was really good. He told me attributes that he had. He was playing more as a sweeper type centre half at that particular time. Read the game brilliantly, had good legs about him at that age and good pace, good and strong there, and a talker. That's one of the things that when we first came into Dundee United, was the fact that we were bottom of the league, and we needed people who were going to be a talker, an organiser, somebody who would put their heart and soul into performances. Now, I don't think anybody throughout his time at Dundee United can say anything less about Sean, is the fact that how he puts everything into a match. You know, he's played some superb matches. There'll be some matches that Sean thinks he's not done quite as well in, but he's always been for the cause in many ways. He's come into this football club and settled in the city, now just outside in Stewart. He's always been a guy who will go and visit hospitals and turn up at things that football clubs need players like that. But on and off the park, Sean has been a exemplary, in my opinion. He's been a fantastic signing. He's put in some great performance for Dundee United. He's had highs in cup finals and he's had lows in cup finals, but at least he's played in them, and he thoroughly deserves the night. Hopefully he has soon.
We talk about Sean, the player, first of all. When you go back to when Craig went over, the biggest recommendation is someone like Craig Levine, a defender himself, saying he'll do for me. Sean's one of these guys that you could probably put right across the back four in any position, and he'll play whether it be left back, right back, or centre half. Is that something you knew about Sean in the first instance, or did you have him focused on coming in as, say, the centre half of the club? First
and foremost, I think we needed a good defender, and Sean, when he was younger, he read the game well, as I mentioned earlier. We didn't think he was quite as versatile as what it's proven to be, because you could actually sit him in the midfield as well, because he's a tidy footballer and he had the legs to get about the pitch as well. But he's always come across as a player, and this is what managers and assistant managers and coaches need, is a player that if asked to do a job, any particular job, which is unusual to him, like play left back for example, when he's a natural right-footed player, Sean didn't question it. Sean was more than happy to get the jersey and pull the jersey on, and he'd done his very, very best. And as far as I'm concerned, and certainly my period and Craig's period as United managers, he had a lot more good performances than bad, and you've got to give credit to him for that, because he's actually been a credit to his family as well. One of the things I remember picking him up as a young man at the airport with his father to bring him up to Tannadice for the first time, let him see what this place is all about. But he warmed to Tannadice right away. He warmed to want to be here, and it's important when you're shifting countries that you want to settle and make sure that you're going to make a fist of it. And Sean Dillon, you can never ever accuse him no putting his heart and soul into it. So the great thing for me was, yes, he was a good defender, and the better thing for me is, as we got to know him a bit better, was that put him in anywhere and he'd have tried his best, and that's all you want. You want people who are going to try their very best for the club.
And talked about him as a defender. We'll talk about him, and it's always a JFK moment. He scored a few goals, and you always remember where you were when he scored those goals, because there was a couple over the 10 years. So under your stewardship as manager and as assistant manager, was there any when he did score? I think one that comes to mind was a volley against St Mirren, and then he got the equaliser at Celtic Park.
Well, the biggest one for me, and I remember, because I thought I might get asked that for yourself, Reedy, was you're going to Celtic Park, they're the champions at the time, never easy. United's record under me and Craig in at Parkhead was hard lines. We put up some decent performances, we were very close to winning sometimes, but when you're in the 89th or 90th minute, you're 1-0 down against the champions, you get a free kick wide. I would suggest that in the past days that you want a John Dillon in there, you want a Lee Wilkie in there, you want a big Dan Dodds in there who will score goals. Sean decided, I think, off his own back, I don't think it was of my asking, but he's in there. And one of the greatest things in the world for any manager and players is getting a goal at these kind of venues and getting the equaliser. Sean ghosted in, and it might only have been for a yard or two, but if he's not there, we're going away with a 1-0 defeat. So he puts himself in where it hurts, he gets a header, and I'll tell you what, we were criticising the bench for celebrating. I think we were always running down the track to get to the United players. Celtic fans didn't like it, we didn't care. It was more important for us, in our opinion, that United went to places like Parkhead and showed that we could compete, and Sean was the lucky guy in that occasion to get that equaliser. Delighted with that. I don't remember many more Sean goals, if I'm being honest. You've mentioned a volley against St Mirren, I can't remember that.
Well, I only know
I'll
that
take it.
He reminded us before the interview that he did score. Funnily enough, we were watching England League Cup final a couple of weeks ago, which had Fraser Forster in the goal, and Sean was quick to remind us that his header beat Fraser Forster quite more convincingly than Ibrahimovic's on that day. So
from a yard.
So talking about the 10 years that Sean's had here, obviously when you played, testimonials were all too common, but now they're very rare. So a guy that signed, obviously I was here at the time when 10 years ago, you don't expect, the one before that was Morris Malpass, the last time I had a testimonial here. So to have that testimonial, it's a special thing. And did you think that when you signed some of the players back then, that 10 years later you'd be coming back to pay tribute to them?
Absolutely not, if I'm being honest, because the modern day footballer, it's as quick as he can get away. And for a manager, one of the things that he's constantly got to do is change teams, because at first sight, if you have a bit of success, players are wanting to double, treble, quadruple their money, and I don't blame them for that. I'm not blaming for that. But loyalty is few and far between, players wise. And one thing Sean has done is shown a great deal of loyalty to Dundee United. And Sean will be the first to say that he hasn't played well in every game, but the majority of games he has done exceptionally well. And after the cup final, one of the things that I would love to have done is to keep that team together for quite a while. But the success that Gomez had put in, the success that Bobbin had done, Paul Dixon looking to go and, although he didn't play in the cup final, had a great season. A lot of the players, Dusan Pernice as well, there's a number of the players, Goody, Swanee, Craig Conway. It's very, very difficult to get hold on to players when other clubs are willing to pay money for them, or other clubs are willing to give them, if they're out of contract, a lot of money to go and play for them. United have a level of payment that we can pay, or could pay at that particular time, and I could understand why players went. But Sean had no intentions of going anywhere. He was settled, his family was settled in Inchture as well, and you need people like that at the football club. I think John Daly, for the majority, was a loyal player as well. They were desperately keen to stay here, and it's difficult to keep players. I don't think United will have another player who will be here for 10 years and having a testimonial for a very long time, because I think the days of players spending so long at the one club and showing that loyalty are few and far between. I just don't think it will happen that often, and I'm delighted that it's happened to a guy like Sean, whose nature and whose politeness even in amongst supporters when things are going well, but also showing great humility when things aren't going well. You know, one of the things I watched from a distance was when last year United weren't doing particularly well and they were looking like going down. Sean was always there to the supporters who stayed to the end to applaud them and thank them for turning up. You know, the easiest thing for a player is to get off that park as quickly as he possibly can. I've seen him, seen John Rankin, you know, guys who put their heart and soul into performance. It didn't happen for them, and it's disappointing the way it ended. But he wasn't all the type to run away from any stick or that was maybe going to fly at that particular time. You know, so I just admire people like that and I admire players like that. And Sean Dillon comes into high up in that calibre of player who doesn't shy away from criticism. He'll accept it and get on with it and try and better himself.
And mentioning the type of guy Sean is, what was evident was this contacting former players who obviously played under yourself, Peter, to come back and, you know, pay tribute to Sean. Guys like Christian Calvaris, who's paying his own fare to come over and stay to show that, and that just shows the type of guy Sean is. That there's so many of these players have the respect for him as a man and as a former teammate as well. They want to be here to pay tribute to him, including yourself in that.
No, we're absolutely thrilled to be involved in a small part, and we're thrilled. I'd have came to the game even if I wasn't even getting involved to show support and paid in. Quite happy to do that. Gary Kirk's the same. He's coming up and I'll be in touch with Heggie as well. You know, because they guys worked their socks off for me when I was a manager, and they worked their socks off for Craig Levein when I was the assistant manager as well. Sean being part of that, and it says everything of the man that, you know, that these players are desperate to turn up. Craig Conway, who's playing week in week out in the championship, scoring goals. I think it's great that his managers are not allowing them to come up because they've still got a lot of important games. They're near the bottom of the table. It tells me everything that Bobbin and John Daly and these boys want to come back and play for Sean. But it's because of the type of person he is, you know, because he's been a fantastic teammate on and off the pitch. You know, he's always looking after the guys off the pitch. And anything you ever needed done, if you needed somebody to visit a kid in hospital, if you needed somebody to go and visit the old folks having a Christmas party, Sean, ask him once, you wouldn't need to ask him again. There's players who are within that group you'd have to force to go to these kind of things. You ask Sean to do it once and he'd be there, and I think that says a lot for him, and it says a lot for the way he's been brought up and his family, and I'm sure he'll be bringing his family up that way as well.
Yeah, well, I remember the fondness yourself and Craig coming to the club initially, and you know, it didn't take you long to turn things around at the club. As you say, we were lying bottom of the table, and you signed some special players and some really good players, and quickly got that feel-good factor about the place. What we're all excited about is seeing some of these guys that you brought to the club coming back a week on Tuesday to it. So for you yourself, Craig will be there with Hearts in the dugout with Hearts that night. It'll be special for you to see some old faces again and some old, you know, the lads that played in teams under you.
I can't wait. You know, you mentioned Chris and Calvenis. I just think of Calvenis in the cup final. Craig was a manager. Eddie Thompson got dressing before he died, going through 1-0 up, and blatantly pulled down 2 arms round him, and it was a stonewall penalty kick. Calvenis was magnificent that day, like the rest of the team were, and if we'd went 2-0 up that day, we'd have won that cup. I guarantee that. You know, that's a fact, because for most parts of that game, United dominated and should have won that cup. But Calvenis to want to come over, I haven't seen Christian since he left the place, because obviously he's got a new business career and whatever he's doing. But it'll be lovely to see it. I can't wait, you know, just seeing the guys. I'm not that bothered about how they do in the pitch, because one or two of them, Big Kenza looks as if he's put on about 6 stone. I look forward to seeing him try to play as well, you know. So it'll be an exciting night. It'll be great to see. I just hope that United fans turn out. I know that Hearts fans are desperate to see Scatchell in a maroon jersey again. I've been reading about that. I just hope United fans turn out for a guy who, through thick and thin, has stood by the football club, and we just want to see a decent crowd for Sean, because, as I say, for me, I'm buzzing about it. You know, I've got other worries about trying to get Falkirk out of this division.
It's a nice wee sort of break just from the norm of the pressures of the Championship. You know, being able to come here, and obviously from our supporters as well. You're the manager that won us the Scottish Cup for only the second time in our history. So from that point of view, all over here for Sean and the night, it'll be great for us to pay tribute again to yourself and a lot of the teammates you know, that brought silverware back to Tannadice.
Yeah, and unforgettable scenes, you know. And one of the things that you leave football clubs, right? And I left Dundee United in January 2013, but nobody can take away the memories of what I can, you know, of the 2010. And I was very, very fortunate. I inherited a good team for Craig. We'd worked hard to get it to that. You know, we worked very hard together. He moved on to the Scotland setup, and I continued here. And after a rocky start, everything fell into place. We had magnificent players. We had a really, really good team. We just wish we could have held it together. You know, we got into Europe. We got into Europe a couple of years after that. The biggest disappointment for me is not being able to get through a couple of the rounds in Europe. We possibly should have against the Polish team, and we were unlucky in that, when we played at Olympiacos Stadium against the AEK Athens in the second leg, where Swanee hits the post in the last minute.
Yeah.
You know, so things like that. There's great highs, but nobody can ever take away the fact that this, you know, the group of players who are going to, well, most of them are going to try and be here. We won that cup. You know, and you're right when you say it's the second time in history. When I look at Jim McLean and the top manager that he was, I feel bad the fact that he never won it, but I also feel very proud of the fact that I was United manager when we come back to Tannadice the next day, and we got the open top bus. These are things that, as the older you get, they never leave you. That's the things that never leave you. You know, you can be a good manager one day and a rotten manager the next day, but what they can't take away is the fact that we did bring silverware back here, and it was a great group of players who performed well all through the tournament. People forget, they think it was Ross County in the cup final. We put out the champions after a draw, 3-1 down with 10 minutes to go. We put out St Johnstone away, but to go to Partick Thistle, all the games were away. The only home tie we had here was against Rangers in the replay when David Robertson scored the last minute winner. You know, so a lot of people think it was an easy run through. That was a hard 3 away games, a home game against Rangers, fortunate to get Wraith, and then Ross County played the game of their life against Celtic, knocked Celtic out, which made us even more pressure on the team to try and win it because we were playing a team from the lower division. But they went about it the right way, and I don't think anybody can complain about the result.
Yeah, well, that you know, you talk about the cup run when we played your first season as manager, and it's probably an obvious answer to the question, but the Partick Thistle game down at Firhill, did you ever envisage, you know, only taking charge of the club months before?
Days before, a couple of games before.
That you would, again, as we say, we'd only won this trophy once in our history before, but hard enough as it is losing your manager and, you know, you taking the reins on, with the view that at that point, you know, you didn't know whether you were going to take the job on full time to go on and win the Scottish Cup. I mean, honestly, it's just been an incredible whirlwind season for you. It
was incredible because we'd actually lost to Aberdeen, my first 3 games, lost to Aberdeen, and then I think we drew with Kilmarnock here, and the turnout of United fans at Firhill that day was, you know, it was amazing. There was a massive turnout, and the expectations and the pressure was on United, because I remember people telling me about the radio, they always looked to see where the shock's going to be, and the shock for everybody that day was that United were going to get knocked out of the cup, and we got a break when we had a wee handball for Castlenovo, but I never seen it at the time. That's genuine. Linesman referee thankfully never seen it as well, but we tied it up late on with Goody, who went on his sub and scored the goal. 2 or 3 days after that we played Hamilton Accies at Douglas Park, but our record against Hamilton wasn't that great in the league. Goody scores a winner, and the following week we're playing against the team who was in 3rd place, I think, or 2nd place, and that was Hibernian. We played them here and we beat them. From then on in, the whole place settled down. We got the draw against St John. We actually were drawn against St Johnstone after the Partick Thistle game. Going to McDermott, we score an early goal, Goody scores again, and then you think to yourself, hopefully we get a break in the next draw, which is going to be the quarter-final, and you're pulled out against Rangers at Ibrox. Again, we go in front, Shala scores, of all people to score, and Shala scores, which was great. And then they go 3-1 up. I think a couple of dodgy penalties for Rangers, which shouldn't surprise you. But the way we come back, and you know your luck's in when Gomez is shooting something that's going well past, and it hits Whittaker in the head and goes in. And then with minutes to go, the catalyst, Mike Kovacevic scores a goal with the head.
Yeah.
Worst head of the ball I've ever seen, big Michael, but he scores with the head, and you think to yourself, maybe our name's on it. And when we come back here, we played well against Rangers that night. Great support, great crowd, great atmosphere, and what a time to score, because he gave them no time to come back. But it's no more than what we deserved that night. We deserved to go through, and then all we wanted was a wee bit of luck in the draw, and thankfully we got the Wraith Rovers, and thankfully Ross County probably beat Celtic, because Celtic in a final would have been a different.
Where was it you dared to dream? Was it that Rangers, or was it when the ball came off Davy Robertson's backside and went in, or was it when?
I actually felt quite relaxed about the whole thing until the Saturday game that Ross County beat Celtic, and we were playing the Sunday Wraith Rovers at Hampden, and all of a sudden it went from Ross County in the final, we've got a semi-final against Wraith Rovers. I felt enormous pressure in the Wraith Rovers game, more so than the Ross County game, because we went from maybe second favourites to favourites with Ross County winning against Celtic, and it put a lot of pressure on for us to perform against Wraith Rovers and make sure we won, which we did after a slack 15-20 minute spell in the first half where they nearly scored first. And then the Ross County game, the great thing for me was Ross County had about 6 games, midweek games to play because of the league, the games called off, and it gave me a great opportunity to watch them every game. Down at Queenie South, I was up at Dingwall watching them. I knew everything about Ross County before we played them that final, and what I made sure is we gave all the information to the group of players that we had. And although they were stuffy in the first half, we didn't play, we were a bit nervous probably first half. As soon as we got the first goal, I thought we could have scored 4, 5, 6, whatever, but delighted that we just won the cup, and that was the main thing.
Did you have it in your head, your team, from maybe a couple of weeks before, or was it even like the morning of that you still had doubts of who was playing?
The team was picked, well, probably I knew the nucleus of the team well in advance. What we were trying to do is give Paul Dixon, who'd done his ankle, who'd been in oxygen chambers locally, and he was wanting to give it a best shot. The stand-in for left back was always going to be Sean, but let me tell you, if Paul Dixon had declared himself fit and was okay, Dickers would have played left back and Sean would have played right back. That's nothing against big Michael Kovacevic, but at Hampden Park we need players who were willing to go forward and good in the ball. Michael was a good defender in occasions, but probably the only changes to the team would have been Sean at right back and Dickers at left back, and the other one that you have big Dan Dodds had been there or thereabouts throughout the season, but he got injured a few weeks before the end as well, so he wasn't fit. Sandaz had been injured. Castlenova Shala were just short yet because Daly and Goodwillie had been sensational with the amount of goals and their performances. I think Swanson and Conway on either side were doing the business for us big time, and Bobbin and Gomez were just guys who just got up out the pitch and won the ball back. Really, really good side. Defensively, Kenza and Webby was a big player for us that year. I know he was on loan, and Dusan had done his business any time he was asked for. So you look at that team, and it'd be a team, if they were all the same age, who'd do really well in the Premier League just now, I think.
Yeah, I must have been proud for you as the manager. You're right behind you here. We've got the celebrations on the pitch at Hampden, you with your guys, and you just look at them all and how all of them, when they left here, they all went, got chances to play at, levels down in England, and some went to, the Old Firm even here in Scotland. I must have been proud for you though, even now to see a couple of years after winning that cup, how a lot of these guys, that was the springboard that kind of got a lot of these guys, big moves, and they were playing their trade, in Championship in England.
It got them big moves. Unfortunately, a lot of them went out without the club getting any money, but that's something you got to accept sometimes. You accept the fact that when players' contracts run out and they have been successful and they do win cups like these boys did, somebody comes and offer them 5, 6, 7 times what United are able to offer them, then it's, although they like and love the club and thoroughly enjoy their spell, I don't think there's a player here who would say a bad word against this football club, because their memories are the same as mine. But unfortunately in life, you want to make the most money. Football's a short career. they felt that it was too good offers. The offers were too good to knock back. We got good money for Goody. I can't remember if we got money for Conway or no. I don't know if he was a Bosman. Gomez was a Bosman. Bobbin was a Bosman. You know, a disappointing thing. Dickers eventually was a Bosman. Dusam was a Bosman. So we never probably made as much money from them. But what we did get is a lot of good memories, and the United fans got a lot of good memories because United seen silverware coming back here, and that's something that these guys can hold with pride, because 7 years, you mentioned at the start, where's time went as far as I'm concerned, because I can still remember it as if it was yesterday.
Yeah, and just to wrap things up, we're looking at the game yourself in one dugout, Mr. Levine in the other dugout. You'll be looking forward to looking forward between the two of you as well, obviously being the assistant manager and manager here, and Craig will be looking after the Hearts team and your United team, so that'll be a good bit of banter going on in the dugout.
Oh, there definitely will be. You know, Craig is a guy I look up to an awful lot, you know, because he gave me an opportunity, went to Leicester with him, gave me the assistant's job at Hearts when I was reserve and youth team coach. We worked together in the Scotland setup as well. We've always had the respect, and we respect each other's what we bring to the table. You know, Craig knew what I brought to the table, and I knew what he brought to the table. He's, I would say, the best manager I've worked with, if I'm being perfectly honest. It was a disappointment for all United fans when he left here, because he's a catalyst to rebuilding this football club. For, you know, when it was bottom of the league, I worked alongside him. We worked hard together. We would more or less have the same thoughts in football on many occasions, you know. And the great thing about it is we debated an awful lot. At the end of the day, as a manager, you make the final decision. Craig always made the final decision. It's like me now. When I took over at United, you have people who you trust beside you, and that's a great thing for me, that Craig Levine trusted me to put in a performance that was good enough for him. He got great kudos going to Scotland, and as I say, guys, you need people beside you who are going to tell you the truth, and who are there to back you when things aren't going well as when they're going good. You know, so the banter will be good. You know, he's put on quite a bit of weight since the last time. He's got a stupid, ridiculous beard as well. I'm going to have a word with him about it, actually, because I haven't seen him with smoke to him for a wee while, but you can't get away with that.
It's going to be great to see you all and the former players as well. Peter, it's delighted that you've been able to take time out your schedule with Falkirk to speak this night, and obviously look forward to seeing you in the dugout once more at Tannadice.
Reedy, get it right up you.